Hello, this is Bridget Rao with Divine Essentials. Hi there, how are you? So we are moving on with Alcyone Light Healing. We are going to be doing week 13 of level 2. And so if you're somebody that's just clicking on this video because you're interested in it, you're totally welcome to stay and watch just this video. But if you are interested in all of Alcyone Light Healing, you can go down into the description box and it will take you to the playlist for all of Alcyone Light Healing. You can do level 1 and level 2. And again, you can take what you like, leave what you don't, whatever. This is kind of just something that I was guided to bring forward for the past 10 years. I've been guided to bring this forward, and I finally have it here. So this is something that is just helping people to learn, different concepts and practices, and there's meditations and activations, which there will be an activation linked down below for this video as well. We're going to basically talk about the mystery school teachings, and then we're going to do an activation to help you to kind of connect with those teachings and to connect with your own mystery school. So that will be in the description box if you are interested in taking that after you listen to this. So basically mystery schools have obviously been around for a long time. And when I think of mystery school, I always think of the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, just because I don't know why. I honestly don't know why that comes to my mind, but it does. And there's a lot of things connected to ancient Egypt, that words and concepts and deities and things like that, that I don't know extensively, but without ever learning anything about it, with those names and those things were already in my consciousness. It was things I recognized or knew on some level that, oh, this is this. You know what I mean? It's hard to put into words, but basically I feel like mystery school is an inner school. Okay, I'm going to start there. Basically, we already have this information inside of us. We already have all of the teachings ingrained into our consciousness through the collective consciousness, through our own consciousness, and through our own experiences with consciousness and our lives that we've lived. And I feel like some of us resonate strongly with teachings from ancient Egypt, or we resonate strongly with teachings from somewhere else, or we resonate with the stories that were told from other places. And you might find that there's words or there's things or there's concepts that on a core level or on a soul level without anybody ever teaching you. One thing that's coming to mind is, as a kid, I always knew what Orion was. Without anybody telling me that that's Orion, I always looked up, saw Orion's belt, knew it was Orion's belt, and I don't know why. I don't recall anyone ever being like, hey Bridget, that's Orion's belt. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that was taught to me. And that's the same thing with a lot of the stuff connected to ancient Egypt. It wasn't stuff that was taught to me. It was stuff that kind of just was downloaded or already in there. And then at later time, when I went through my awakening, I was like, why do I know this stuff? What is this information inside of me? And I did go, look into, documentaries and information online, but a lot of what's inside of me, you're not going to find on a website. You're not going to find, in a book, basically. But some of it you do. And that's what gives me the confirmation of all right, I'm on the right track here, but what they're saying is a little bit different from what I'm feeling. And I encourage each of you, if you have something like that, to go with what's inside of you, because that is basically what the mystery school is. It's an inner school. It's a teaching from within. So we can look at the concepts on the external, as in astrology, when we're connecting with the teachings of the stars. But even there, you find that we have the Western type, and then we have this other type. And now we have people who, for all this time, everybody was going with 12 zodiac signs, and all of a sudden they brought in a 13th one for, certain ways of believing. And it depends on where you live and what you've grown up with and what tradition has been taught to you, or what tradition just feels right to you. And again, that comes from the inner side of yourself. That comes from your inner knowing. That comes from your experiences here in this world that you've lived, and then experiences from other lifetimes that you've lived, and just kind of, through what you are, who you are at your core. So things like astrology are things that you would want to go within on and figure out what makes sense to you that feels right on a soul level. And something that the Pleiadians always say when they are channeling or giving information is, we give you a version of reality. We're giving you a version of what you can, take. This is our version of things. You can take it or leave it, because you're going to anyways. If what I say does not resonate with you, you're going to click off, or you're going to say, no, that's not right. And that's your school from within telling you that that's not right for you, and that's okay. You may find someone else that teaches a completely different concept and find that to be your teaching. That's kind of what a mystery school is going more so within and navigating on that level. But we can look at it as like dreams, like interpreting our dreams. Energy work is another one where there's so many different teachings available. We have Reiki, but then we have fire Reiki, we have holy fire Reiki, we have there's so many different versions of Reiki now that it's crazy, like Kundalini Reiki, this Reiki, that Reiki, and it just goes to show you that whatever has been, gets turned into many things. And that's also another concept that I've, taken from, the teachings that I've received from the Pleiadians, and just from in general, like, the fact that we create our reality. And so every thought that you think exists, right? So if thoughts are things, which is taught by the Pleiadians, which is taught by, mystics and people all over the world in the mystery schools, through Thoth or Thoth, however you want to pronounce his name, the Egyptian god, taught that thoughts are things. And so if thoughts are things, things exist, right? So your thoughts exist. So if you have the thought that differs from the thoughts of others, your thought now exists. You've created something. And if you get other people to come on board with that, then usually it gets more momentum. And that's when we have these things happen where it's like, now there's a 13th zodiac sign, or now there's holy fire Reiki, or now there's this Reiki. It's just a matter of thinking the thought and creating that thing and bringing it forward into reality. And everything that you think exists on some level, those ideas that you get, it's like we live in a multiverse, or multi-dimensional reality where there's multiple versions of you existing right now. So whatever I'm doing right here in this moment, there's another version of me doing it somewhere else in a different way, times a billion. And that's what I feel like kind of adds to this creation of things, and how some things kind of take off and other things don't really take off. It's just the momentum and the power of the belief behind what the thing is that's being thought about, and how many other people think about it, because of the collective consciousness and how we get, connected to each other. You notice how, like, there's trends on certain things, and it can go worldwide. The trends happen because of the collective consciousness. We're interconnected through our thoughts, through those things that we're thinking. And this is basically, the mystery behind life, the mystery behind the universe. And so our intuition is another thing that, we want to strengthen or use in a mystery school. Our intuition is kind of like the gatekeeper, where we need to strengthen that in order to really dive into these teachings of the universe and really understand them, or understand them on our own level, because everybody's going to walk away from mystery teachings differently, or look at mysteries and come up with their own reasoning behind it as to why it exists, or what it means, or what it is, or what it should be. And you can even look at Alcyone Light Healing as a mystery teaching school, where basically the concepts that we're talking about, the things that we're doing, are not, mainstream teachings. You're not going to find this in a book somewhere. You're not going to find this, out there with other people, but you're going to connect with it on your level. And you and the other person that takes it, you guys could sit together, go through the whole thing together, take it on the exact same day at the exact same time, and you both walk away with completely different experiences from the teachings that are given to you and from the experiences that are given to you, which is another part of mystery schools, is like meditation, going within and getting your own information. That's why I do so many meditations and activations, because learning these mysteries or learning these teachings, it doesn't come from the external so much. It's not about remembering facts. It's not about remembering what I said or what I did per se. It's more so about what you've experienced from within. And then, you know, like when we experience psychic phenomena, that's another level of teachings that you're going through on your own. When you're experiencing the synchronicity, you're getting the confirmation from the universe, and it's like you're evolving, you're passing the test, you're seeing what you needed to see in order to go to the next level. And it unlocks things inside of you, and it teaches you things, and it opens your mind. And that's basically what we're trying to do, is have spiritual growth and enlightenment here with the universal laws and, you know, the unsolved mysteries of the universe, of ancient Egypt, of wherever, because they're everywhere. There's so much that we do not know about this world that we live in, and the people who have been on it, and how things have gotten here, and how people created it, and what you know, all of those details are these mysteries that are unsolved. And you basically want to activate your higher consciousness and become more aware of your presence and the presence of consciousness here to unlock these mystery teachings from within. So you basically allow yourself to open up on physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. You know what I mean? You're changing on all of those levels when you start to awaken. You start to feel differently physically. You start to feel differently emotionally. And you start to interact mentally in a new way, which impacts the way that you feel, and it impacts the way that you think, and it impacts the way that you have a connection to the spiritual world. Because if you go back before you awakened, or right when you started to awaken, and then you go through the process, you see an evolution in the way that you are, in the way that you exist, the way that you create, what you're creating, who you're connecting with. The things that come into your life completely change. So it's like unlocking those universal laws is a self-development teaching. It's helping you to become a better version of yourself. Not even necessarily a better version of yourself, just a more aware version of yourself. So you're more conscious of what you're creating here, now, in this moment, in every moment, and you're understanding the concepts that were, you know, given in the past. Because a lot of things too that are, you know, written about or that are taught, you know, about ancient Egypt or about ancient civilizations and the pyramids and these things that are out there, a lot of these things that you get taught like in your school don't really make sense. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it was built with some rope, and the slaves brought it up, and it does not really usually make sense to what actually happened. I mean, I understand some stuff probably did happen, but some stuff just doesn't really feel right on a soul level. I remember being 12 years, I don't even know how old I was, but I remember being in like 6th grade and kind of just looking around the room like, are they kidding? You know, with the history book, because what's written in the history books isn't the right teachings for the mystery behind what they're trying to show us. You know, it's like this great mystery of the world, or this beautiful thing that was created that's got so much connected to it beyond that it's a pyramid. You know, it's a huge symbolic thing that everybody who looks at it comes up with something else that it's symbolizing. You know, some people say that it the size of it is like, you know, equal to this. If you like do a certain mathematical equation, it basically equals the size of the Earth, or it connects with the size of the Earth in some way. When you go out into space, you can see the pyramid. When you look at the placement of the pyramids, they align with, you know, Orion's belt. When you look into the shafts of the pyramid, they align with Isis and Osiris, which is basically Orion and Sirius, the 2 stars, which are connected to, you know, their teachings, which are connected to the Dogon tribe of Africa. And looking into the Dogon tribe of Africa is another place that will kind of blow your mind, because the Dogon tribe knew things that we didn't even know up until 1995. They knew things that we needed telescopes to understand In 1995, we discovered a star that they were writing about on their rock carving and walls back, way back. And it's just, there's so much information that's been passed along and taught by word of mouth and shared through history. But because it's not like put into a little printed book and given to you in a class and you look at it and, can recite what you were taught, people kind of dismiss it, or they say, oh, that's a hoax, or that's not real, or, they try to those things. And that's why these archaeologists and these people who are spending their life, dating stuff and, really looking into these things, when they find something big, they don't talk about it because they ruin their career if they do, because the higher ups make it seem like they're making crap up, or that they're lying, or that it's false, or they basically destroy their career. They have a choice. It's like, I can continue making money and survive and have my career, or I can give my understanding of these things and be looked at as a crazy person, as a hoax, and all these other things. It's getting better now, especially we have like Ancient Aliens, which again is one of those shows that it's like, some of it is great and some of it is not so great, and it gets a mixed review. And then like they have that guy on there that's like, "Nah." And so I'm like, why did we pick him of all the people to be like the one that's mouthing stuff for us? Because people look at him like he's nuts. And if they had chosen somebody maybe with a little, and that's the thing, this is humans, this is what we do, we look at people and judge them. I don't have anything against the guy, but I know humans do. When they look at him, they go, oh, he's got a messy hair, and he's crazy, and he talks all wild, so we're going to dismiss anything he says, because it doesn't fit with our, if you're not wearing like a suit and tie and all prim and proper, then you don't know what you're talking about, you're just a crazy person. But that's why so much of this is more so on a personal level, and it's more so for people who are ready to go within and not be influenced by what's been written in textbooks, or what's been just regurgitated information that's serving a higher purpose for a lot of people. Because the less we know about this, the easier it is to control us. The less connected we are to ourselves and our source energy and the universal laws of creation, and figuring out that we have the power to do whatever we want, that's a lot of power that some people do not want us to have. So basically, the law of attraction is a simple way to explain, these mystery teachings. And even though the movie that came out a few years ago, they were talking in it, they're like, I finally figured out what the mystery was, what everybody's been hiding all these years, and it's the law of attraction. And it is, but they left out, some of the important pieces, whereas in, yes, what you think becomes, things, and you got to be mindful of your thoughts and things like that. But there's other laws, there's other pieces to the puzzle. And I think that's why so many people who try out the law of attraction fail, or they only get so far with it. And it's because it's intended for us to understand other concepts or go within on a deeper level. It's like, that's like the beginning stage, is like understanding that concept and then going deeper into it and really like understanding other things as a result of going within and navigating from our inside level rather than on the outside level, and not getting dissuaded by the fact that we had a bad day. Because even if you think positive all the time, there's polarity here. You have to have the good and the bad, the up and the down, the back and the forth, the man and the woman, the hot and the cold. That's just how it is. And there's cause and effect. So it's like everything you do, there's an effect for it, and it ripples and it comes and it goes, and there's this rhythm of everything. There's 7 laws here. But it's like when we start to create from our higher chakras rather than our lower chakras, that's when we're tapping into these mystery teachings. That's when we're tapping into that source from within and that source from above. And a lot of people create from their lower chakras. They're always on a focus of survival. And that's why those people who, what am I trying to say? Those who go around and do this, like the digging and everything to figure out what stuff is, I think I said what they were a minute ago. Basically, their need for survival outweighs their need to like be, experiencing the truth and sharing the truth of what they find. So when they go and they, find that their carbon dating is 5 billion years ago, or that they found a footprint with a dinosaur, or that they found, something significant, and they decide not to share it, it's because of that base fear, that root chakra that's leading them, that they're like, I need my survival, I need to eat, I need to survive, I need my money. And then people, go from their sacral chakra a lot, which is our desire. And we let that control a lot of things, especially like you think about men. You can control some men with their desire. You can get them to do things that, is pretty messed up. Or they do things and get other people to do things that are pretty messed up because of their desire. And then our will, kind of dictates a lot of things with our solar plexus. So that's short-lived energy. It's lower vibrational energy. It keeps us in a base level. But when we can come up into our hearts and into our, third eye and our crown, and we're more connected up here, and we create from up here, and we live from up here, we start to really tap into those mysteries, and we start to create a better reality for ourselves, or we basically just understand this reality better so we can navigate it easily. And we start to create and become aware, and we know that I am interacting and I am creating. And those two words, I am, are so powerful. So it's like everything we say, I am, is what is going to follow. So if you're constantly saying things like, I am tired, and I am sick, and I am unhappy, and I am miserable, and I am this, that's what you're going to see, that's what you're going to feel, that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to be. But if you can start to train your mind to be more so of like, I'm aware, and I'm evolving, and I'm healing, and I'm growing, I'm ascending, I'm alive, I am happy, I am healthy, I am all of these, positive things, you can retrain your brain to become those things, and you can start to feel those things and create those things, because your thoughts are things. And those things, get closer and closer and closer the more you maintain that vibration, that rhythm, that connection to it. So you want to, think about what you're thinking, and think about what you're speaking and what you're doing, so that you can start creating a better reality. And so for me, the mystery schools also, originated in Atlantis, but also I feel like they, on here on the earth, they started in Atlantis, and then they went to Egypt, and they were in the Karnak temple, and they had like the goddess Sekhmet, and they say that some people, and this is the thing, some people will say that Sekhmet and Hathor were the gateway to the to the ancient Egyptian teachings. But other people look at the tablets of Thoth or Thoth as the teachings. And some people think of Sekhmet as being, Hathor, or Hathor being Sekhmet. And, some people look at Hathor and Sekhmet as, these great, beautiful goddesses. And some of them look at these horrible goddesses of destruction and war and bloodthirsty, coming down to destroy all of men. And so you see again, these teachings that have been shared or have been brought into the mainstream, that get put into Wikipedia or get put into these places, they all vary. It's like you can't get a straight story about what happened. So the only way to really get the story that's going to make sense, or that's the story for you to hear, is to go within. So that's why we're going to do the activation, is so that you can go in and you can start to connect with it, and you can go in as many times as you want, through listening to the activation, or through your own private little meditations where you set that intention to connect with whichever god or goddess you want to connect with. Connect with the Emerald Tablets. Read the Emerald Tablets. Read the things that are available to see. I've read some of the Emerald Tablets, and they say, read them more than once, because every time you read it, you're going to take something different away from it. So you might read it today and go, oh my God, and have all these mind-expanding experiences and thinking a new way. And then in a week from now, you read it and see it in a totally different perspective, or something else hits you. So that, again, is those mystery teachings. It's like, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, because you're constantly evolving and changing. So in the Temple of Delphi, they basically said that meant know thyself was what you needed to know, was to know thyself. So again, it's who am I and why am I here? You know, thinking of those questions, those mysteries are what we're teaching in the mysteries teachings, is figuring out who you are, why you're here on a soul level, and then starting to create from that soul level rather than outside of yourself, you know, instead of just regurgitating facts that you picked up along the way, or knowing who was who, you know, along the way, because they all change. You can look at every story from religion, from, you know, the Bible, the Quran. It's like all of these things, they all have a similar story, but they all have different people in it. They all have different stuff connected to it. So again, it's all up for interpretation. And even just going to churches, I find I've never really been in a church like on a regular basis. I didn't go to church as a kid and things like that, but depending on who the person is in front of you speaking, reading out of that Bible, will depend on what you're taught or what they say that it means, that is being said in the Bible. Because the Bible is like blah 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 blah. They say all these things, and then the dude's like, and this means this, or they take it and turn it into how to, like, you know, apply that to your daily life. But they're taking the word of God or the word of whoever, and they're, you know, changing it, and depending on who you're listening to will change what they say. So the churches in the South and the churches in the North are probably telling two totally different stories about the same, you know, scripture. And that's why you're not going to go to someone else to get these teachings. You're going to go to yourself to get these teachings. And then again, it's like these little seeds that get planted inside of you. It's not something that you're just going to overnight know. And, you know, back during the time of Egypt, it was like you spent years and years in study, which was more so years and years in meditation or ritual practices, you know, going within, going deeper within, and beginning the process of knowing up here, which leads to your rebirth. So you just need to trust what you know inside. And that's the biggest key to this, is trusting what you already know. So many people just doubt, or they think they're making it up, or they don't trust themselves enough. And that's the key to these teachings. That's the key to understanding these concepts of the universe, is by trusting what you already know, and knowing that you already know it on this level that's going to continue to evolve and come through you. And you do not absorb and recite or remember these teachings. They absorb into you. So you're changing how you view the world. You're changing, as, you know, who you are and why you're here. Because like, these are questions that I'll probably ask during the activation, and every time you listen to it, you know, it will probably evolve or change as to, like, when you answer who am I, or, you know, why am I here, it's going to change. It's probably going to, you know, evolve. Hopefully over time you'll start to have a deeper understanding of why you're here or who you are on a soul level. So basically, we're seeking out the inner temple, and we're going to be going through an alchemical change within our physical body and our auric body, so that we can, you know, receive more information. Because right now, if you're, you know, living from your base chakras and that lower information and that lower vibration of fear and desire and, you know, power and just kind of basic ego things, you're limiting yourself from what you can retrieve and receive and get from the universe, because you're giving out a limited thing. So when you open yourself up and you bring yourself up, you expand on out, you're going to retrieve more information. These downloads are just going to come in. The teachings are going to be there on a soul level, and you're just going to know them deep within yourself. You've got to be the one that kind of goes within and harvests what you know. Go get those seeds and get them to grow and get them to be knowing what it is that you want to know about, by setting the intention that I want to know this, and then diving in and uncovering what the information is, what the answers are. And, you know, the symbols were passed through word of mouth and through rituals, and they are absorbed through senses. So, you know, even to this day we do rituals, and I feel like people kind of stepped away from, like, why we do rituals. Sometimes I feel like people just do a ritual just to do it because they think that the act of doing it is going to be like some magical key to making something happen. It's you doing the ritual that is like the magical part of it, you know. It is your intention that is the biggest thing. You don't need to get, you know, the tools. You don't need to have all these things involved within it, but we add these things into it because that adds to the intention, that adds to the energy, and it helps people in a physical world to be like, okay, I'm doing something, so something's gonna happen because I'm doing it. It helps your belief system, you know, believe in what you're doing, and it just gives you like an added energy connected to it. But sometimes people, I feel like, just do rituals thinking that the ritual itself is going to do all the work, when it's more so you need to be in the right frame of mind and the right energy to be doing it, and opening yourself up to be receiving while you're doing it, because anybody can light a candle or anybody can, you know, do whatever, and it's like if you don't do it with the right intention or the right mind behind it, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to evolve from it. There's no magic that's going to be created. You've got to go into it on a higher level and be more open and receptive to receiving what comes from it. You know, the download that gets integrated into you. So basically, even back in the mystery teachings too, in ancient Egypt specifically, there was a lot of you know, famous people back then who kind of came through ancient Egypt and went through the teachings, or more so the rituals and like this, you know, learning of the symbols and going through these concepts that I'm, you know, talking about. And they came out, you know, Jesus, they say, even some people think that Jesus went through these teachings or into the temples, because when he came out of Egypt, he was able to perform miracles. Like Aristotle went in, Isaac Newton went in, Napoleon, Da Vinci, you know, these people who went on to be these great, you know, performing things in this world. They say that they, you know, went into and received information from the mystery teachings of ancient Egyptians. And so basically the teachings come from the stars, which then went to Atlantis and then went to Egypt. And they're concealed behind a veil of hieroglyphs and symbolism. And the temples, or the pyramids, they even house harmonic frequencies. So going into these places, going into the temples, going into the pyramids, you know, is going to activate things on a bigger level. It's like you're basically going into a ritual itself. You're becoming a part of the ritual when you go into them. And that's why, like, when I do my activations or my meditations, I play the sound bowl, I play the pyramid, because, you know, just even the shape of certain things impacts the frequency, it impacts the rhythm that you're getting, it impacts the frequencies that are coming to you. And then playing the bowl has its own sound and its own energies and frequencies that are coming through it. Sometimes I use that one over there, sometimes I use this one over here. It just, I feel which one needs to be a part of what I'm doing. Sometimes I use multiple at one time, sometimes I use all of them at one time. But it's again, tapping into energy and frequency, and then setting a certain intention, and then opening up for those seeds to come within, and then allowing yourself to just receive whatever they give to you. And when you look at ancient Egypt, there's so many symbolisms, you know, symbols and symbolism there, that it's not that it's like you just look at it and you figure out what it means. You look at it and you open your mind up to what it could mean, and then you take all versions of that, because a symbol is a symbol for a reason. It's not just, there's not going to be just one set, this is what it means. There's going to be multiple ways of looking at a symbol and taking it and, you know, feeling what it connects to. Just even going into these temples themselves is going to be a different experience each time. So if you went into the pyramid right now, you know, and you meditated there, you would have a certain experience. You may have certain downloads, you may have certain frequencies come in. And then if you went in there on a different day at a different time, you would have a whole different experience. And that can be acquired anywhere through your intention and through, you know, playing like the bowls, or just adding something to it, whether it's your intention or sound healing or energy healing or, you know, whatever. Yeah, bringing in astrology to it, like I'm going to meditate on this day because this is what's happening with the planets and it's going to be a good time for me to do this. That's another way of connecting with the teachings and kind of downloading the information that you need to receive on that time. Like everybody gets all amped up for 11/11, everybody gets all amped up on the portal days. But every day of the week is a day that you can be connecting with a different energy and frequency to retrieve what you need to retrieve, to understand what you need to understand. So, your intuition and your, you know, reason is going to allow you to access and gain information and access to these secrets, you know, by trusting. And then knowing that, you know, these teachings back then, they were passed through priests and priestesses or hierophants and royals. The pharaohs were also pupils of magician priests or hierophants, and they saw over these temples, but like they weren't, you know, the only ones who got that information. And you have to look at that too and realize that if they were the only ones that were getting it and giving it, it was like some of those things got limited. So we don't even necessarily want to limit ourselves to just the mystery teachings of ancient Egypt. We want to know the ancient mystery answers beyond there. We want to go, you know, beyond Atlantis. We want to go into the stars, and that's what I do. I don't go, you know, I learn about what happened in ancient Egypt. I look at ancient Egypt. Like I remember during my awakening, I was like, I want to go get all the hieroglyphs because I wanted to freaking do my own like interpretation of them, because I felt like I was going to be able to decode them. I was crazy and just like, give them to me. I know them. And maybe I did on some level. I feel like we all do on some level, but going beyond there is what we want to do. You know what I mean? We don't want to look at any one place or any one symbol or any one person as the person who has all the information. You want to go within yourself to access, you know, the universe and to the stars and to where it all comes from, which is above us and below us. And it's all connected through, you know, the ether, and it's connected through consciousness. And let me see if there's anything else here. So we are talking about the ancient Egyptian ones. So basically, Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, learning, communication, the scribe of God. He was also the god of science, philosophy, religion, and wisdom, and magic. Was also the inventor of language, the inventor of the alphabet and hieroglyphs. Is credited with tens of thousands of writings. He was also known as Hermes, or Hermes Trismegistus, or Trismegistus, and he wrote the Emerald Tablets and the Corpus Hermeticum. And there's 7 Hermetic laws in the tablets, has part of them, and then they're also written in the Nag Hammadi library. So if you look at, you know, these people that we'll call like the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and things like that, they basically have followed these teachings. They've followed these mystery teachings. And some people look at the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and all these people as like, oh my god, they're bad people, and I think that's because they get tied into like the Illuminati somehow. But I feel like there's a choice there, you know. It's like they can go up these steps and do these things that are helping them to evolve and to awaken and to connect and, you know, have the power to change and create and manifest what they want. Or they can go even further to a place of like, I want power and greed and manipulation and control. And that's, I feel like, where things split. And that's, again, a conscious choice to create from the higher level of consciousness or the lower level of consciousness. But unfortunately, if they understand these concepts and choose to go from more of a base level, you know, greed and power and things like that, that's their choice. But they, you know, still have a lot of power when doing so. And I think that's where we get, you know, these people who are controlling and manipulating and using their power for not so good things. But there's not every person out there that connects with like Freemasonry or Rosicrucian, you know, teachings and things like that are bad people. They're just understanding these concepts and applying them and using them in architecture and in their world in different ways. So I try not to look at them as bad, in any way. And if you look into like the history of all of them, you'll see like times where they were taken down or things happened badly to them as a result of power and greed and just lies and manipulation throughout history. So Isis is the mother of all mysteries. She's the symbol of the Atlantean mystery schools, and she's an institution of Freemasonry, and or she's a symbol of the institution of Freemasonry. And Horus equals the body of illuminated initiates born again from the womb of Isis or out of mystery school. Osiris is a secret doctrine of knowledge before it was lost. And the Phallus of Osiris equals the lost word of the Cabal in the Luciferian philosophy of Freemasonry. So this also equals divine power of Osiris, his phallus, and it can all kind of come in connection too with the Freemasons and Rosicrucians. But again, it's just basically teachings that they adopted, and other people have adopted them too. There's many people out there who are teaching, these teachings, and they don't even know that they're teaching these teachings. They don't understand on that level. They just never kind of dove over there to look at, this comes from here. So even Alcyone light healing in some way can be looked at as like a mystery school or a way of us connecting with these concepts, because this is something I've been trying to teach people for a long time, is the concepts that were taught in these mystery teachings or these schools, and basically have been passed down in many different ways through many different cultures, through many different words, and it's just basically however you kind of look at it or resonate with it. But at the end of it all, it's kind of all stemming from there, because like I said, here on the earth, it came from the stars, went to Atlantis, and then it ended up in ancient Egypt, where it was given out all over the place. So even if you follow the Buddhism, or you follow this or you follow that, in some way through the collective consciousness, a lot of it still came from the time of Atlantis, which then went to Egypt. So you basically could say you're following the Atlantean mystery teachings. And a lot of the things that were shared or found or given and taught and things like that were destroyed or lost along the way, because so much of what they wrote was on papyrus, or when they had the fall of their library there. I feel like because they were so connected, and then they had the what was the name of that library? The Library of Alexandria. I feel like the Library of Alexandria, when that was destroyed, there was some library destroyed. I don't know if it was that one or if it was named something else, but there was a library destroyed, and there was a lot of information inside of it, and I feel like a lot of teachings were kind of lost at that point. That's why we don't know how they built the pyramids for sure. Everybody has their ideas, and they keep coming up with new ones as to, they did this, and they did that, and they did this, and they did that, with such precision that we can't do it now. So it's like, they did it with some rope and some, poles that rolled, and a lot of people, and just knew exactly where to put it. It's 0.005 degree, off at any point. It's like, it's always aligned. It's able to tell time. It's able to connect. It shows us when like the equinox is. It lines up with Orion's belt at certain times. Its little shafts line up with stuff, and the way that the bricks are laid, even though they're humongous, ton. They weigh over a ton, and they like align with each other in this perfect precision that you can't even fit like a ruler between them. And they're like, we just threw them together with some rope and some things. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. But you can believe that if you want to. But basically, what I'm saying is a lot of this information has been lost. Some people say that there's information underneath the paw of the Sphinx. That could be or couldn't be. But when I look at ancient Egypt, I see Lyra. I see the Lyrans. And that's why, I thought it was interesting that they say that the mystery schools, like their temple or the way to get in was basically the gateway was connected to Hathor and Sekhmet, because Sekhmet, is the one that got the lion head and the human body, or the lady body. And I find it funny that they can connect her with the goddess of wrath and war and all of those things, because we had the Galactic War with the Orions and the Lyrans. So it kind of all ties together in some way or another. And then when she is depicted, a lot of times she's depicted with the sun on her head, which, for whatever reason, I feel like it connects more so with Lyra and like her coming from the stars. And they say that she came from the Eye of Ra as like, you know, because they weren't going with the teachings that they were supposed to be going with, so this was like wrath of the god being like, we're mad at you, so we're sending her after you to kill everybody. But then there's others who say that she was amazing and beautiful and calm, and, you know, she was the goddess of healing and whatever. So there's like two versions of her. And then you get connected with, sometimes they see her as Hathor, sometimes they see her as Sekhmet. So there's so many ways to look at this stuff, and it's basically all word of mouth at this point. You know, there's not a whole lot of writing other than hieroglyphs that, unless you know exactly what they mean, then you don't know what they're writing. Even their pictures, on their pictures, you see that there's huge giant people with little people, which ties into a lot of stuff from the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki coming to the earth back in the days. And that is written about in the Bible too. It says there was giants on the earth in those days, and they came into the daughters of men, which is where we come in. So back in the history, in Sumeria, there's tablets that are written about and have like this story of Enki and Enlil, and coming from the 12th planet Nibiru, which is on a different orbit than our, you know, solar system. So our solar system, you know, has like this basic way of going around. We have everybody, we have, you know, everything going in this circle. Well, there's one that's going like around the long way, and it's a huge planet, and it's basically comes every I think 3,500 years or something like that, or 35,000. It's a long time, 3,500 I believe, and it ties in with the teachings of the Mayans and like the 2012 stuff, you know. But basically it said that Enki and Enlil came here because they were trying to mine monatomic gold from our ocean, and they needed a slave race when they were doing that, so that they could repair their atmosphere, because their atmosphere was starting to deteriorate, kind of like ours is. And they found out that they could fix it with monatomic gold. So they came here, and they used Mars as a jumping station. And if you see Mars has some stuff on it that's kind of weird. You know, if you really study it and look into it, there's been, you know, people who think that there's pyramids there, and that even like a sphinx looking thing there, and, you know, there's just anomalies, and the more that they kind of study it, the more they find things out. And it's like we're finding water, we're finding, you know, things that make sense for life. But anyways, I feel like we destroyed that already, and now we're here. But basically, they used Mars as like a space station between their planet and this planet, and then they came down here, and Enki was like the god of these people, and Enlil was another one, and then they had kids, and basically they saw back then it was just apes, you know, it was like the apes walking around, and they took them and they manipulated the DNA and created human beings to be their slave race. But they did it in their own image, so they took their DNA and mixed it with the DNA of these apes to create a man. And when they did this, some of these huge beings, because they're giants, they're huge, they fell in love with their creations. They fell in love with the daughter of men, and they started to mate with them, and some of the ladies died trying to give birth to these monster babies, and some of them didn't. And I feel like that is kind of where this whole split in the blood comes too, because there's some people who have Rhesus positive blood, and then there's people who have Rhesus negative blood, which means that there's no Rhesus monkey gene inside of their bloodline. So if there's a Rhesus monkey gene in some people and not in other people, that throws out this whole evolution thing. Yes, some people could have evolved, from apes, but some people did not. Where did they evolve from? So basically, that's kind of some of the stuff that I feel like, also kind of has been written about in these cylinders. If you look into Zechariah Stitchin and the tablets of Sumeria, and look into his stuff, he has his version of things, which I don't take everything from him as like 100% this makes all sense, but I definitely tie it into the big picture of things, because just my own synchronicity, my own confirmation, my own experiences have made sense with the teachings that he has, talked about, and the things that he has said. And then you look at these depictions, these symbolic things where there's, dudes in frickin' spaceships, flying through the air, even in the mid-century, like the paintings that they did back in the day, different famous artists, sometimes they'll have like a little spaceship flying around, or they'll have like people doing some weird ass shit, and it's just, there's too much of it. There's stuff in the pyramids in the pyramids in South America. There's pyramids all over the world that have been hidden, like the ones in China. They like put underneath grass and they act like it's a freaking hill when it's a pyramid. There's underwater cities all over the place. There's a story, a historical story of a flood that literally, every single religion speaks about, whether you're here, there, or anywhere. And there's a lot of information about these giants, which I feel like at some point may have became the Vikings, and then traveled around and kind of were just not great people. They kind of did some stuff that wasn't so great, and they took over stuff and did stuff that just kind of sucked for other people. But I don't know, there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of things out there that could be and would be and should be, but the only one that can really navigate that for you or figure that out for you is you, by going within and studying some of it, looking into some of it, feeling your way through it to feel what feels right to you, and then using some of your logic. Like that was like me using a little bit of my logic. I'm like, all right, well, if the Rhesus monkey gene isn't there, then how the hell did they evolve from monkeys or from that line of energy? It doesn't make sense. So use your discernment, your information, and your intuition to guide you to get the answers to things, is basically what the mystery teachings are about. And that's going to be from within. And the 7 Hermetic laws are mentalism, all is mind, universe is mental. Number 2 is correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. Number 3 is vibration, nothing rests, everything moves, everything is constantly moving, everything is made up of atoms, everything is constantly going. And then number 4 is the polarity, everything has its poles and its opposites, the up and the down, the hot and the cold, the back and the forth, the right and the wrong. And then number 5 is rhythm, everything flows out and in, there's tides, there's rises and falls. And then there's cause and effect, every cause has effect. Chance is but a name for a law that we don't recognize, And then the last one is gender, which in everything has masculine and feminine principle. So yeah, there's basically those 7 Hermetic laws that you can, look into the teachings behind those. And that's also like those little seeds that will help you to understand the universal, energies and the universal consciousness, and how to basically unlock things and look at the symbolism of things. Like with the ancient Egypt, they had the Eye of Ra, or the Eye of Horus, and it basically is the pituitary gland. If you were to cut the person's head in half and look from the side, all of the little pieces are connecting, and they look just like how our third eye is. And some people say that it even has symbolism tied into representing the 6 senses, smell, sight, thought, hearing, taste, and touch. And they one thing looks like a nose, and one thing looks like it leads down to the stomach, and one thing represents the eyebrow, and it's like our thoughts. When we're thinking, we kind of move our eyebrow, like, and they all have their thing. But basically, again, that's just one person's way of looking at it, and other people going, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So it may not be that. It may be something else. And you going within and asking, what does the Eye of Horus represent, or what does it mean, is where you're going to find your information, you know, or what makes sense to you. And, you know, like I said, the pyramids themselves are a big, you know, mystery or a big symbol. The hieroglyphs are big. You know, you could look at the hieroglyphs and ask to retrieve information about those, download the frequency from them, and feel the meaning of them, rather than just asking, like, what is this hieroglyph? Because somebody else came up with that meaning. And then the Great Pyramid, its dimensions actually equal like the speed of light, and it scales to the size of Earth. The chambers lead to Osiris and Isis, which are Orion and Sirius, which ties into like the Dogon tribe, which ties into, you know, other things. And that's the thing too, like I've always looked into stuff, found other stuff, and, you know, was led to other things, or led to information that kind of confirmed things for me, that there's no way for it to be known, or there's no way for it to exist unless, you know, it was real, or it was taught in some way, or somebody had that information that they shouldn't have had. So that's why, you know, like looking into the Dogon tribe is one of those things that's kind of like, aha. Looking into the teachings of, you know, Enki and Enlil is like, aha. You know, just looking into these different things is going to help you to start planting the little seeds of information, but going within is really where you're going to get the mass of emotion and like the information that you need to understand it. So hopefully that made sense on some level. So basically, you know, these mystery teachings aren't teachings from the outside, they're teachings from within. And the more that you go within and the more that you practice, the more that you're going to know, the more you're going to awaken and unlock, and the easier it's going to be. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to kind of go within and unlock, you know, these teachings for you to decipher on your own, for you to kind of understand and, you know, start planting the seeds of potential to grow and connect on a universal like level, so that you can start creating a reality that comes from the understanding of the principles and understanding of the teachings that are already innately inside of you. So hopefully that helps you and made a little bit of sense. I know there's a lot of information there, but yeah, in Renee, namaste.